Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially August 4th, around 10:40 in the morning. If you can tell, I am a little bit hoarse. Just did get back from Miami for a bachelor party. Obviously, a lot of fun, a lot of debauchery. So the voice is a little injured, but what we're here today to do is we are going to name each week of the season for the ACC. We're going to run through the big games. We're going to run through the bad spots. We're going to talk about everything every single week of the ACC. We might do this for some of the other conferences. I know that we are doing the College Football Ultimate Road Trip, which we do every single year. That'll be with myself, Pat, and Bryce, which will be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to it. So that's what we're going to do today. One other quick note that I do want to mention, two actually. Number one, the game day for collection for Roback is dropping over the next couple of weeks. It's 58 schools that are dropping for Roback. I am wearing mine right now. I wear it all the time. It's fantastic, comfortable, awesome designs, really, really unique. You're not going to see something like it with any other brand. For those of you that are listening now and the schools that are dropping or getting a refresh that may be interested in it, Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, JMU, Louisville, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame, UNC, Pittsburgh, SMU, South Carolina, UVA, VT, and Wake are all either getting their first licensed skier or a refresh. So use code Saturday for 20% off. You get 20% off of anything on the store as long as you're using an email for the first time over at roback.com. For you Virginia Tech fans, we are getting several new items. I'll give you a hint on one of them. It is a design that has to do with Virginia Tech and something else that is an awesome tradition of Virginia Tech. It's pretty awesome. Might be one of my favorites, if not my favorite. So that's what we have going on. Second thing, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Helps us a lot. We're almost at 4,000 before football season. Would really appreciate it. So smash that subscribe button if you get a chance. But here we go. ACC. I'm going to run through each week. I'll run through maybe the schedule a little bit. We'll see how it goes, but I have a name for each one. And we've talked about the first one a couple of times. Week one in the ACC is episode 2 of Band of Brothers. For those of you not familiar, episode 2 is titled Day of Days. It is essentially the invasion of France for the 101st Airborne or the 82nd Airborne. Can't remember which one is. I think it's the 82nd. But irregardless, this is the biggest week for the ACC and the biggest opportunity for the ACC of the entire season. It can go one of really 3 ways, but one of really only 2. The first way that it can go is the ACC shows their own, gets themselves in a good position. Then you're in a prove me spot. You're essentially just hold serve and you should get multiple bids in, depending on what the Big 12 looks like. You also can dominate and secure 2 spots in the college football playoff, which would be huge, maybe even 3 if we're getting a little crazy here for the ACC. Or you can get absolutely dominated, and then you're basically going to have to crawl out of a huge well to get yourself more than 1 bid into the college football playoff, which would be a disaster. One of those 3 things are going to happen that first week of college football. So let's look at some of these games. Here are the marquee chances for the ACC. LSU at Clemson. That's at 7:30 on Saturday. Clemson is a 3.5-point favorite. I will just go out on a limb here, and it is a limb. I fully expect Clemson to win this game. I think Clemson is that team coming into the year that has so much talent on both sides of the ball and so much seniority on both sides of the ball and so much continuity on their football team. I trust Dabo more than I do Brian Kelly in week 1, and I expect Clemson to finish this one, take it out, Death Valley, whatever, handle business week 1. I don't think that eliminates LSU. I don't think that, bolsters Clemson. I think both teams can definitely make a push for the playoff, but I fully expect Clemson to win this game. Moving on, we got Notre Dame at Miami. That's at 7:30 on Sunday. Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite. Then you have the opportunity games. South Carolina taking on Virginia Tech and Atlanta. That's at 3 o'clock on Sunday. South Carolina is 8-point favorites. I'm really not trying to be a homer here. I understand South Carolina is that hot, dark horse pick for a lot of people. South Carolina is replacing a bunch. South Carolina, for the first time, has a ton of pressure on them. Our guy Sam Jesse tweeted about this. I don't know if there's a coach with more week one pressure on their back than, look, Brian Kelly is one of them, but Shane Beamer is the other one. Shane Beamer, highest expectations at South Carolina in a long, long time. Taking on your father's alma mater. Heisman hopeful talk about your quarterback. Ton of pressure on Shane and the Gamecocks. I'm not expecting the Tech to win, but it would be huge if they did. Another opportunity game is TCU at UNC. Not really sure what to expect from either team. That's at 8 o'clock on Monday. TCU is a 3-point favorite. So those two games, if you win them, you should feel pretty good. You should feel like you stole something, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. Two games the ACC absolutely cannot lose. One of them is fair. One of them may not be as fair. East Carolina and NC State. That's at 7 o'clock on Thursday. NC State's a 12.5-point favorite. If you all recall, ECU beat NC State in the bowl game last year. There was a fight. Dave Doran says he wants to beat the shit out of ECU this year. And they have to. You cannot lose this game. And that's a little bit of a spot that you can't screw this up. The other one is Georgia Tech at Colorado. Now, the line on this game is only 4, and Georgia Tech is favored by 4. Why is this a cannot happen disaster spot? Georgia Tech, to me, is a bona fide compete for an ACC title and a playoff spot team. To come out and to lose to Colorado, even though it's on the road, even though Colorado is going to have a whole bunch of good juju, you got the Deion thing going on, place is going to be crazy, tickets are going to be expensive, it's going to be sold out. I get it. Georgia Tech taking a week 1 loss before their first conference game is Clemson pretty much would take them out of the running for the playoff. So I would like to avoid being in that situation. And the ACC needs to flex their muscle a little bit in those two games. And then there are these surprise games. These are games that I fully anticipate we will lose, but if we win, hey, fantastic. Syracuse versus Tennessee. That is the game before Virginia Tech in Atlanta. That is at noon on Saturday. Tennessee is a 14-point favorite. Do I think that's a ton of points? I do. I understand that Syracuse lost their quarterback. I understand that Syracuse has lost a lot of their production, but Tennessee also lost their quarterback at a pretty inopportune time. So, again, fully expect Tennessee to win this football game. Do think 14 is a lot of points. And then the other one is Alabama at FSU. Alabama is 13.5-point favorites. This game is in Tallahassee at 3:30 on Saturday. Look, I mean, again, it's one of those situations where if you win, you're feeling really good about yourself. If you lose, you're like, well, we lost. Kind of figured that was going to happen. So that's what we have in the surprise lane. And then I have at the bottom for each week, there's a television emoji and there's a ghost emoji. Television emoji means this is dedicated viewing. I'll be watching it. The ghost emoji means something awful can happen to the ACC here. Hopefully it doesn't. So for the television, got to see it, LSU at Clemson. To me, that's the game of the week. If you didn't let me choose that one, I'm probably taking Notre Dame versus Miami. I'm very interested in that one as well. Do expect Notre Dame to win that game, by the way. And then for the disaster class, it's ECU and NC State. I mean, scary situation. You can make the argument to me that the other one is Hawaii versus Stanford as I'm looking at this board right now. But, I don't think a lot of people in the national media will be talking about that, regardless of who wins. So moving on to week 2. This is called the test of tier 2. The question is essentially how healthy is the middle of the ACC? And this is why I say that. Here are the matchups that we got. Illinois at Duke at noon. Illinois is 6th in the Big Ten title odds. Illinois is going to be a really good football team this year. Duke, Manny Diaz has done some really, really good stuff over there. They have their answer at quarterback. I expect Duke to be, if not better, as good as they were last year, and that was a great Duke team. So that one is intriguing to me. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech, personally really afraid of this game. Vanderbilt's coming into Blacksburg at 7:30 p.m. I mean, what a spot for the Hokies. An opportunity to win a game against a Power 4 out-of-conference opponent, which they have not done in a very long time, and have also embarrassed themselves on several occasions. Look, you want to say Tech was down when they played this game. That's totally fair. You want to say Vanderbilt was better than they normally are. Rutgers is better than they normally are. The headline of Virginia Tech loses at home to Rutgers, Purdue, Vanderbilt, if that happens, is it doesn't matter how good the other team is. It's still an embarrassing occurrence. And we have been on the other side of that quite a lot. over these last few years. So that's a huge spot for Tech. Boston College is at Michigan State at 7:30 on Peacock. Wow. Again, middle to bottom middle tier of the ACC taking on a bottom tier to maybe middle tier Michigan State. Michigan State's got a lot of work to do. BC really needs to win this game to hit their over. We talked about this the other day on the over-unders pod. And then last one I have for you, Baylor at SMU. I mean, it's no small spot for the Stangs. They got to stand tall. Do you get it? It's a Dave Aranda joke. I thought it was pretty good. So Baylor and SMU. You can win 3 out of 4 of these games. Really good situation for the ACC. Again, you're not getting the Florida States, the Clemsons, the Miamis to play this week, or even Georgia Tech. But you're getting some of those other teams that you think could compete for a top 5, 6-ish spot in the ACC. If I can only watch one of these games, and I'm trying to remove my Virginia Tech bias for this, it's probably going to be Illinois at Duke. And if I am looking at the week where we could really get ourselves into trouble, it's UNC traveling to Charlotte to play at Charlotte at 7 o'clock. Why are we doing this? Don't know. Hate it. Hate that this game is happening. But they're playing at 7 o'clock. It'll probably be all over ESPN, and it could be an ugly spot. So that is my opinion on week 2. Week 3, shout out to NSYNC. This is a bye, and a test. Now, the bye is not bye weeks. It's more so waving goodbye to somebody. Here are the waving goodbyes. Pitt and West Virginia. We're waving goodbye to this matchup until it picks up again in 2029 and 2032. I don't know why this game isn't on the schedule every single year, but it's not. So we're waving goodbye to that until 2029. ODU and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just waved bye-bye to the Monarchs in 4 games that were future scheduled, including 3 in Norfolk. Unfortunately, by canceling these games, it means that Virginia Tech for the foreseeable future, or maybe forever, will have a losing record in Norfolk. We are 1-2 in Norfolk. It's kind of a bummer. But we don't need to be playing those games. Anyway, ODU plays Virginia Tech at 7 o'clock. I believe that game is on ACC Network. Is it? It is. ACC Network, 7 o'clock. So there's that game. And then the other goodbye was Darian Mensah, the quarterback of Duke, said goodbye to Tulane. And Duke is traveling to Tulane and playing him at 8 o'clock in week 3. So those are your 3 goodbyes. And then the test. Man, this is the game to watch of the week. It's Clemson versus Georgia Tech. It's crazy that game is this early. The game is at noon, and it's going to be a huge test for both sides. Again, this is why that Georgia Tech-Colorado game is so important. I understand it's not a conference game, and I'm not trying to say that you have a built-in loss here because you are hosting Clemson, but I fully expect Clemson to run the table in the ACC. So, look, it's an opportunity for Georgia Tech to surprise the world, really. And it's an opportunity for Clemson to get a really, they just had one against LSU. It's another opportunity for Clemson to take on a solid team. So the game to watch this week is the Clemson-Georgia Tech game. And then the scary game of the week is Duke at Tulane, another ACC team traveling to a non-Power 4 school to play a road game. Pretty scary. So here we go. Week 4, 1 and done. There's one game that I care about this week in week 4, and that's Florida and Miami. It's the only game. It's far and away the best and maybe the only game to care about. If you want to look around elsewhere, it's kind of like the last pieces of the out-of-conference games that are interesting. You have UNC at UCF. I'm sure ESPN will be there. Bounce House, Orlando, Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson, Mickey Mouse ears, who knows? SMU at TCU. Sure, I suppose. In terms of the other games, or just the other 2 categories, the game that I'm watching is Florida and Miami. And then the scary game is Cal at San Diego State. I mean, I'm looking at the rest of this schedule for week 4. Tell me which one of these are intriguing to you. Syracuse at Clemson? No. NC State at Duke? Maybe for some. Stanford at Virginia? No. Kent State at Florida State? No. Temple at Georgia Tech? No. Wofford at Virginia Tech? No. I'm not even going to go to that game. Bowling Green at Louisville? No. So this week kind of sucks. Maybe a good week to go frolicking. And I wish I had something better for you in week 5, but I just don't. Week 5 is not a bad week to have a wedding. Florida State plays UVA at 7 o'clock on Friday, which is a little bit of an underrated matchup. UVA and Florida State are 3-3 in the last 6 matchups. They also have only played 4 times since 2010, and they haven't played since 2019. So I find that pretty interesting. Other games that you have Louisville at Pitt. It's not cold enough for me to think that that's going to get a little weird. So the game that I'm going to watch is Florida State at UVA, and the scary game is San Jose at Stanford. But again, are people really going to talk about it if Stanford loses to San Jose State? Probably not. If you look elsewhere, it's definitely a week to watch football in other conferences. Oregon is at Penn State, LSU is at Ole Miss, Alabama is at UGA, and Auburn is at A&M. Those are just a few. So you should probably watch some other games. Week 6, I am calling this the Dabo-check Beck-Stellanos week 6. So you got Clemson in North Carolina. There's this little love affair between Dabo and Coach Belichick, which has been pretty funny to watch. Both giving each other a lot of credit. Going to take each other on this upcoming year. It's the only hard game North Carolina plays the entire season. And then you have Miami at Florida State. 2 quarterbacks who aren't America's favorite. Carson Beck, not a lot of people huge fan of him. I think he's going to have a good year. But a lot of people, may not like him very much. And Tommy Castellanos, he runs his mouth more than anybody. So, and those are my 2 games of the week. If I can only watch one, I'm watching Florida State take on Miami at Miami. And the game I'm scared of is Clemson and UNC, because Clemson is the darling of the ACC in chances of competing for a national title. And somehow if Bill Belichick uses his, Jedi mind trick, force evil spirits to beat Clemson, be a bit of a bummer, especially if you have a bad week 1. So we'll see. We shall see. College Game Day, ESPN is just going to be all over this game, which is crazy because it's not one of the more competitive or exciting games that Clemson has played, but it's going to have a ton of hype just because of Bill Belichick. It's probably going to do numbers too. The Belichick effect on the numbers that we're going to see for the television ratings for UNC is like turning up the sliders in NBA 2K. So that is going to be a factor. Week 7, this is the week to go pumpkin picking. It is the week to tell your girlfriend or your significant other, hey, look, I care about you so much that we're going to go pumpkin picking today during college football. Not a problem. Let's do it. Because this week is awful. It's bad. There are only 6 games on. I'm a homer. The Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech game is the most compelling. And even if you look around elsewhere, there aren't that many good games available elsewhere. You got Bama, Missouri, you got South Carolina, LSU, Ohio State, Illinois, which are somewhat compelling. And then there's an Oklahoma, Texas game in the Cotton Bowl. So, if there's a week to load up the car and go pumpkin picking or apple picking or get some pictures in or do some fall stuff, some pumpkin spice latte stuff, this is the week 7. Game I would watch is Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. And the scary game for me is Wake Forest, Oregon State. That's the scary game for me. I also have a wedding this week. So I can't check the pumpkin picking box here, but can't win them all. Week 8. This is the challengers versus the dark horse week for me. So you have a couple of challengers going up against the top 2. Louisville is at Miami on Friday. Then you have SMU at Clemson on Saturday. And you have Georgia Tech at Duke. So those first 2 games, you're getting the 2 top teams in the ACC in Miami and Clemson taking on Louisville and SMU, who are both in the top 5. And then Georgia Tech going to Duke. I'm just telling you, that's going to be a challenge. You're probably looking at that game if you're, a casual college football fan, and you're like, oh, Georgia Tech's going to roll Duke. I have a strong feeling that's going to be a challenge for Georgia Tech. Not saying they're going to lose, saying it's a big spot. And then if I could watch any one of those games, it's Louisville, Miami. If I'm scared of one of those games, it's Washington State at Virginia. Now, if I wanted to go with a different game for the scary game of the week, I could have gone with UConn at Boston College, but the Wahoo game is on the CW. And if anything is on the CW, it's getting bonus points for me. So I will go with Washington State and Virginia. Week 9. I don't know how many of you have seen the R. Kelly videos when he was interviewed by, I think, 60 Minutes, talking about his heinous acts. But there was a part where he goes, I'm fighting for my bleeping life. That's what week 9 is. I think there are a couple of teams who are going to have coaches in hot seats, if it goes that way, that are going to be in really scary spots. I have been screaming from the hilltops all year that the ACC is going to be looking for quite a few new coaches, whether it be due to retirement, going to the NFL, taking different jobs, or coaches getting fired. I think you're going to see a lot of that in the ACC. So I think this week could be, a nail in the coffin spot for some of these coaches. What are some of these coaches? Boston College and Louisville. I don't think he's going to get fired. I think he's be like, you know what? College kind of sucks. I miss the NFL. Just played Louisville, lost by 50 because Brom and his quarterback came in and laid the hammer down. Not having too much fun. NC State at Pitt. 2 coaches who are not in the good graces of their fan bases right now. They could both be fighting for bowl eligibility. One of them could be having an awful season. Who knows? That's a scary spot for both of those guys. Virginia at UNC. Is Bill Belichick saying, hey, I'm going to go coach the Titans next year? At this point, I don't know. Is Tony Elliott in good standing right now? I don't know. Cal at Virginia Tech on Friday night. I'm just telling you, game I am scared of. National television, Cal is coming in. We were just talking about what it means when you have team that doesn't have history beats team that you root for and how that makes it look no matter how good that team is. Virginia Tech loses to Cal on Friday night at home. I think it'd be way worse than losing to Duke on that Thursday night game that we honored the 1999 team. I think that would pale in comparison to losing to Cal on Friday at home. At night. That would be awful. So that's another one. 2 coaches that need to show an uptick this year. Week 10 is the Red Bandana and Nerd Week. What does that mean? Well, this is the Red Bandana Boston College game, if I had to guess. I didn't answer the question from last week. The question from last week, the game that I would watch in week 9, I would watch Virginia at UNC. That rivalry started in 1892, and it's 5-5 in the last 10 matchups. And again, the scary matchup is Cal versus Virginia Tech. Week 10. Sorry about that. Week 10. Red Bandana Week and Nerd Week. So I think we're going to get the Red Bandana Boston game this week. Notre Dame is traveling to Boston College. And when is that game? That game is on Saturday, November 1st. So it's going to be cold. Not that it matters because Notre Dame is in Indiana. So I think we get Red Bandana that week. And then we also have a couple of big spots for the nerd schools. Pittsburgh is traveling to Stanford. Duke is traveling to Clemson. And Wake Forest is traveling to Florida State. So that's what I'm calling. I'm calling it Red Bandana Boston College game. And the nerd schools could make some noise week. If I could watch one of them, it's Duke Clemson. If I'm afraid of one of them, it's Wake at Florida State. I know my only familiarity with him is he did a good job at Washington State, and I liked him at Media Day. This could be around the time, November-ish, end of October, could be the time that Florida State's wheels have fallen off and they're imploding, or they could be competing for a playoff spot. I really don't know what to expect out of Florida State. But as I look at this game right now, I'm like, damn, can Wake's new coach make a statement here? And then is Florida State already looking for their next coach and they've imploded? Who knows? Cinema. Truly. Week 11. This is the Florida State Clemson game and an overall week in college football in general. So, you got Florida State at Clemson. That's game I'm watching. If you're afraid of one of these games in week 11, it's Duke at UConn or SMU at Boston College, just because SMU is going to be playing in the cold and they look awful when they play in the cold. They looked awful in the Fenway Bowl. They looked awful in Happy Valley. So it seems that SMU has some trouble playing the cold. They need to start turning up the coolness in their indoor facility or whatever they have going on down there. And then the rest of the conferences, I mean, you got a couple good games. You got LSU Bama, which is the marquee game of the week. And then you have BYU, Texas Tech, Indiana, Penn State. Don't really care about those. So it's a little late for pumpkin picking, but it's another week where you don't have to do that much. Week 12. Man, we're almost there. Week 12. This is the Texas-Georgia game, and that's what you're going to do on Saturday. You're going to watch Texas and Georgia. There are no really great matchups in the ACC outside of Clemson and Louisville, and they play on Friday night. So if I'm watching a game, that's the one I'm watching. If you look at the rest of the ACC, here's what we got. Georgia Tech at Boston College, Virginia at Duke, Virginia Tech at Florida State. I'm going to be interested to watch that, but the rest of the country probably isn't. North Carolina at Wake Forest, and then Notre Dame at Pitt. Just not a good week. Not a good week for the ACC. And then the best from elsewhere, again, you have Texas, Georgia, and you also have Florida, Ole Miss. Speaking of which, I just watched Swamp Kings again last night because football is almost here. Fun watch. Fun watch. Week 13. I'm calling this the Clemson thinks they're an SEC team week. Why is that? Because Clemson and for some reason Wake Forest as well are both doing that SEC thing where you play like a nobody this week. So Clemson is hosting Furman. Wake Forest is hosting Delaware. Now, what are the games that are interesting outside of that? Well, Florida State is at NC State on Friday. Pitt is at Georgia Tech. And I just say Pitt because Pitt's ruined a couple of seasons before and done some weird stuff. Louisville is at SMU. And Miami is at Tech. So if I could watch any of these games, it's going to be Louisville and SMU. And if I'm afraid of one of these games, it's probably Delaware at Wake. Probably Delaware at Wake. I'm just doing one more comb to make sure. Yeah, it's probably Delaware at Wake. This is also Duke Carolina week, which is pretty interesting. I'm excited about that. Week 14. Rivalry week. I don't know why Duke and UNC don't play this week. It's kind of silly. I think this is spoiler central. And here's why. First of all, Georgia at Georgia Tech on Friday. At Mercedes-Benz Domes. Boo! Game should be not ever played at a neutral site. That game's on Friday. If I could watch any game this weekend from the ACC, that's the game I'm watching. Miami at Pittsburgh. Scary spot for Miami. That game is on November 29th in Pittsburgh. The field is going to be crappy. The weather is going to suck. At Acrisure, I would be terrified of this week. I mean, Miami screwed it up last year on the last week of the year against Syracuse. And that wasn't even outside. I think that was at Syracuse. Yeah. So this one's outside, and it's going to be cold. So I would be afraid of that game. And then Clemson at South Carolina. I don't look at this as like I'm going to get some crap for this. I really don't think South Carolina is going to be playing this game for a spot at the playoff. I think they're going to be playing this game for a spot to make this like the win of the season and ruin Clemson's year. I think South Carolina is good, but to Josh Pate's point, there are too many teams in the SEC for all of them to win 10 games. And they all seem to think they're going to win the 10 games. There's LSU, there's South Carolina, there's Missouri. There is, who else is there that's in that realm that thinks they're going to win 10 games? I mean, there's Ole Miss who thinks they're going to win 10 games. There's Georgia who thinks they're going to win 10 plus games. There's just too many teams that think they're going to win 10 plus games. And I don't think South Carolina is going to be one of them. That's just my opinion. So if I could watch any of these games, it's Georgia, Georgia Tech. And if I'm afraid of the results of any of these games, it's Florida State at Florida. Because Florida State could be moving away from a coach, and Florida could be pissed that they had a really tough schedule and take it out on Florida State. Again, I know I'm inferring that Florida State's going to have a tough year. I really don't know what Florida State's going to do this year. So that is my run through of all of the weeks of college football. If you are still here, let me know which week of college football you are most excited for as it pertains to the ACC, and let me know what team you are most excited. Who's the biggest mystery team in the ACC? We may do this in the other conferences. I don't know. But what I do know is that later today we interview Bruce Arians, which I'm really excited about. That'll come out this week. We also have our college football road trip coming out. We're also going to be talking with Solid Verbal which is really exciting. And then lastly, if you haven't done so yet, party for the South Carolina game Saturday night. That will be linked below. Hotels, if you need them for the South Carolina game, that will be linked below. And we have one more exciting announcement this week about the South Carolina game, day of the game. So stay tuned for all of those. That is it. That is a pod. And we'll be talking to you again really soon. Go Hokies, go ACC. It's almost here.